What I'm still very concerned about is how a 20-year-old could formulate a plan and make his way to an elevated building uninterrupted and carry out this attack.
Donald Trump has survived an attempt on his life at a rally in Pennsylvania. It was about 5 minutes into his speech in front of around 20 to 30,000 Trump supporters when shots began to run out. You see that Donald Trump winces. Possibly that's the moment when the bullet strikes his ear. He then ducks down behind the plinth from where he is speaking. You see Secret Service agents piling on top of him, and I literally mean piling on top of him to protect him. There is a pause. You can hear screams. There's understandable terror within that rally, and then you hear more shots. Donald Trump then is ushered to his feet once you hear the Secret Service details saying that the shooter is down. He stands up. You can see blood running down the side of his face from his ear. We understand it is just a minor injury to his ear. And surrounded by Secret Service officers, he then clenches his fist and he mouths the word fight to the supporters at that rally as they chant USA, USA. He is then bundled into a car. We do know his campaign advisors have said he is fine. He's been checked over at a hospital. He's now back home in New Jersey. But clear many questions being asked this morning about the security service detail when witnesses have actually, we heard from them this morning, saying that they had seen a shooter on a nearby roof. They had alerted police officers, but for 2 or 3 minutes, nothing was done. And then the shots rang out. Let's get the thoughts now of Charles Marino, who's a national security expert. He's a former supervisory special agent in the US Secret Service. He is in South Carolina, but joins us live now. Good morning to you, Charles.
Good morning, Chloe.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. When you have viewed this footage, when you've heard what's happened, from your security background, what is your reaction? What is your assessment?
So there's the planning stage that I'll talk about in advance of this event and what the Secret Service typically does. And then there's the reaction element that we see, which most people around the world have now seen. The planning stage is the important part where you mitigate all of these threats, whether it's through moving certain stages in a different direction out of line of sight, or you assign police officers and other Secret Service agents to mitigate those threats. And one of those things is potential high ground threats coming from buildings, which is what we saw here in this situation, where you had a building that gave an elevated platform to the shooter with a line of sight to the stage. That will be the primary focus of the investigation, aside from the shooter and the shooter's background. But that's where the FBI will look to see how exactly was this allowed to happen. As far as the reaction from the agents, as you described, correctly jumping on top of the president, hiding him behind the armor, behind that pipe and drape, the sharpshooters mitigating the threat, and then letting the detail know when it was safe to move the former president to the car, that the threat was eliminated. So that worked very well. I'm happy with that. What I'm still very concerned about is how a 20-year-old could formulate a plan and make his way to an elevated building uninterrupted and carry out this attack.
What I want to ask you, we spoke to a reporter who was there at the rally, and he talked about 20 to 30,000 people. Each one had to go through a metal detector to get inside. It was clearly very strict security to be inside that rally.
Right.
But outside, there wasn't. We've heard that from the witnesses. Would you expect there to be security almost patrolling the perimeter to make sure something like this couldn't happen?
And there's 3 rings of security that are set up. You've got an inner perimeter, which is the Secret Service agents that you saw react to the shooting. Then there's the middle perimeter, which includes screening for weapons at the rally site. And then there's the outer perimeter that goes well beyond just the site. This building where the shooter was on top of was fairly close, and it was outside what I will call the secure or clean area where people were being searched for weapons and other hazardous items. So that's really where visual observation becomes very important, both from the counter snipers that are on at an elevated position right above the former president. You could see those very clearly where they were on TV, as well as law enforcement officers and other agents. They should have been paying attention to that elevated threat. And for some reason, this 20-year-old was able to go unimpeded up a ladder to a building and lay flat and carry out this attack. There was obviously a lot of pre-planning that went into this. This individual knew what they wanted to do, what they wanted to carry out, and now the investigation will continue. And I can tell you, Chloe, the FBI investigation won't be the only one. You're already hearing members of Congress saying they're going to call the Secret Service director to the Hill to come testify. I'm sure the Department of Homeland Security, which the Secret Service is a part of, they will conduct their own investigation. So it's going to be a long road for the Secret Service.
One of the most worrying aspects that I find listening to all of this was the fact that the witnesses on the ground saying that they could see this man on the roof with a rifle, and they say that they alerted. They weren't clear on whether it was the Secret Service or police officers, but certainly people of authority on the ground saying, there's a man there, we can see him on the roof. And they said they did that 2 or 3 minutes before the shots began. Why was that not acted upon?
Yeah, it's the old see something, say something, right?
Yeah.
And you expect action to take place when people are pointing out a threat. We asked them to be part of the overall security plan to do exactly what they were doing. So investigators are going to look at this. Look, that rally site is now a crime scene, Chloe, and you've got the FBI leading this investigation. They're going to try and track down as many witnesses as they can. They've already set up a specific tip line on their website for people to send videos or other observations that were made. And believe me when I tell you, the FBI will follow up if it's evidence that clearly can inform the investigation. They will follow up and interview each and every one of these people. It's a large volume of people, each with camera phones. So people are going to get different angles, different perspectives, and there's going to be a lot of evidence flooding the FBI website, and they'll have to talk to all those people. So this will be an extensive investigation, but they're going to look at the totality of this event and how this happened.
We know that, of course, it is the Republican convention in just a matter of days. Donald Trump says that he is going to be there. Will we see in future events where Donald Trump, or indeed Biden, or indeed any other political leaders are, will we see as outsiders a tightening of security? I mean, there clearly will be, or will that all be stuff that will be behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I've been asked a lot about the RNC and DNC and what security is going to look like for that. They're both designated national special security events, which here in the US is the highest level that you can go, the top level for special events. The Secret Service oversees those. The events are designated by the Department of Homeland Security, but the Secret Service oversees the security planning, the coordination with other federal partners, state and locals. So it's quite extensive, and they're both indoor facilities as well.
What about rallies? What about rallies, though? I'm thinking in the future, if Donald Trump says, I want to go out there, I want to speak to my people, when it's outside, I mean, I presume you can never protect someone 100% when it's outside and there's members of the public. Will he be told not to do those? I mean, what do you think?
So it's very hard to tell somebody who is campaigning for president what they can and cannot do, especially when it involves delivering a message to a large quantity of people in locations where there may not be an indoor basketball arena or a stadium. So, you know, each of these sites are unique, like this one was in Pennsylvania, and many of them are outdoors. And it's the job of the Secret Service along with state and local partners to mitigate all threats, depending on the site that's chosen. So it's highly, highly unlikely that the Secret Service is going to say, you can't do this. They're going to have to protect it, and they're going to have to protect it the best way that they can. And there's going to be lessons learned that come out of this. There is no doubt about it. Whether they didn't do, enough to cover the high ground that we've been discussing here, which, look, they've been defeated on that. They lost.
Mm,
This is a zero fail mission that the Secret Service has. A
yeah.
lot of people say, well, that's not fair. They got to be right 100% of the time every day. Well, look, we all knew what we signed up for, right? And so you've got to go and you've got to conduct the job, and you've got to make sure that you're mitigating all of these threats, no matter the environment that a candidate's
Yeah.
campaign team may select.
Charles, it's been so fascinating speaking to you this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure, Chloe. Thank you.
Take care. That is Charles Marino. He's a national security expert. He's a former supervisory special agent in the US Secret Service. And just saying to us, there were 3 rings of security. This was outside the perimeter. It was outside that secure area. But clearly many questions are going to be asked, huge investigations. And of course, lessons going to have to be learnt, because you would have thought Donald Trump is going to want to be out doing these rallies once again in front of his people. And it can't, as we heard there from Charles, always be in a secure environment. Sometimes it will be outside.